Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Application Delivery for a Cloud-First World, featuring IDC and Citrix. My name is Donna Johnson with Citrix Product Marketing, and I'm fortunate to be joined today by Brad Casemore, Research Director with IDC, and George McGregor, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Citrix. In today's session, Brad will present the results of a survey that IDC conducted about the challenges faced by enterprises delivering applications from a hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, and SaaS world. And George will explore whether a different approach to application delivery is required as applications move to the cloud. Before I go into that presentation, let me quickly review a few housekeeping details. We will have a live Q&A session toward the end of today's event, and you're welcome to submit your questions during the presentation. Simply type your questions into the Ask a Question window and click Submit. Also, we are recording this event, and the on-demand version will be available from the same link you used to join today. So feel free to come back, watch the archive, or share it with your colleagues. And finally, these slides are available for download from the Event Resources tab located along the top of the interface. All right, Brad, let's begin the presentation.
Thanks very much for the introduction, Donna. As Donna said, IDC conducted a worldwide survey of 900 respondents in 9 countries and 4 regions worldwide. Respondents were from mid and large-sized organizations who had a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud strategy. Respondents also had to be knowledgeable about their organization's hybrid multi-cloud strategy, and they had to be cognizant of the challenges their organization faced, and they had to have knowledge of their network infrastructure. Now we're going to go into the results of the survey. I want to give you, first of all, a kind of high-level view of what we found, and then we'll dive into some specific slides and specific questions that were asked. What we found from the survey was that 82% of respondents believe their organization's ability to migrate applications to the cloud is hindered by the increased complexity of their network infrastructure. Only 24% of respondents, less than 1/4, believe their network satisfies their hybrid cloud application delivery requirements. 36% of organizations believe their network does not satisfy their current needs, and they're rather emphatic about that, while 40% are more qualified and say their network satisfies some needs. With the rise of hybrid multi-cloud, 94% of organizations are already reassessing, modifying, or overhauling their network to facilitate app delivery in this new context. Interestingly, respondents told us that respondents indicated that there's a strong appetite for holistic end-to-end application delivery and an application delivery strategy along those lines. 79% of organizations plan to address application delivery in this cloud era via a unified application delivery strategy. As you'll see from the slides that follow, interest levels are high across all geos, company sizes, and vertical markets. We asked right up front in the survey of respondents, do you believe your organization's ability to migrate applications to the cloud is hindered by the increased complexity of your network infrastructure to support end-to-end delivery of hybrid cloud applications? And we'll touch on what that end-to-end delivery means in a later slide. The vast majority of respondents, 82%, reported that their network infrastructure does in fact hinder their ability to migrate apps to the cloud. Only 18% responded negatively. We asked then about, the network's current ability to satisfy application delivery in the cloud era, and the question was specifically, which of the following statements best reflects your organization's current network infrastructure for hybrid cloud application delivery? And you can see 76% of respondents will go into specific responses, but 76% of respondents reported that their network infrastructure is not satisfying the requirements for hybrid cloud application delivery. 36% were rather emphatic and said, my network infrastructure does not satisfy my requirements for hybrid cloud application delivery, and it prevents my organization from realizing cloud benefits such as business agility, greater business productivity, and lower operating costs. Another 40% said my network infrastructure satisfies some of my requirements for hybrid cloud application delivery, but it lacks capabilities in areas such as reliability, security, control, and simplicity. Only 24% of respondents were confident that their network infrastructure satisfies the requirements for hybrid cloud application delivery and helps their organization realize the full benefits of cloud. And then we asked a follow-on question in terms of, you might say, what they're doing about this situation. And we asked, is your organization's disposition toward hybrid multi-cloud applications causing you to reassess the network infrastructure you have deployed to facilitate application delivery? And 47% responded that yes, we have modified or overhauled our network infrastructure for application delivery to better align with our hybrid cloud environment. An equal number, for another 47%, said we are reassessing our current network infrastructure dedicated to application delivery, seeking approaches and vendors that can provide holistic capabilities across hybrid cloud environments. Only 4% said they've not yet reassessed their network infrastructure for application delivery in light of their hybrid cloud orientation, but they foresee the need to do so at a later date, a subsequent date. And only 2% were unqualified in saying we do not foresee the need to reassess our network infrastructure for application delivery. So overwhelmingly, there is an understanding that basically their network infrastructure in support of application delivery needs to be reassessed and overhauled. We asked a follow-on question, which was about holistic application delivery strategy, and you can see how we set it out and defined it here. How interested would you be in a holistic application delivery strategy that extends from your on-premises data centers out to the public cloud and across the WAN to your branch offices and remote sites? And 47% indicated they'd be very interested. Another 33% indicated they'd be extremely interested. When you round out the percentages exactly, it's close to 80%. 79.4% of organizations were either very or extremely interested in a holistic application delivery strategy. As we can see, the interest in this holistic application delivery strategy was strong across all market segments. In terms of the regions we surveyed, USA, Western Europe, Asia Pacific, Japan, Latin America, in terms of company size, in terms of vertical markets, in terms of how long these companies have been around, or these organizations have been around. So, there are some variations there, but generally it was consistent and strong interest right across the board. We asked also whether their organizations, whether respondents' organizations were looking to address these challenges, such as application reliability, security, complexity, control, and visibility, with a single and unified solution or a multi-vendor approach. And you can see that the vast majority, in fact, it doesn't get much stronger than that, 98% are looking for a single unified solution versus a multi-vendor approach. 42% came out and said, yes, we want to address these challenges now, great deal of urgency with a single unified solution. And another 45% said, yes, we are considering addressing these challenges with a single unified solution. And that's how we got to nearly 98%. And another 11%, or I should say that's 87%. Another 11% said, yes, we're going to look at a single unified solution that addresses these challenges within the next 12 to 18 months. And only 2% said, no, we will address these challenges with a multi-vendor approach. We asked respondents to talk about basically the benefits of a holistic application delivery strategy. And specifically, we asked, what are the most important benefits your organization would expect to realize from a holistic application delivery strategy that extends from your on-premises data centers out to the public cloud and across the WAN to your branch offices and remote sites? We asked them to rate the top three in order of importance, with one being the most important. And you can see that 40% indicated that the most important benefit they saw was increasing IT efficiency by automating provisioning and other application delivery processes. Another 38% called out reducing risk to the organization from any potential security breaches by ensuring implementation and enforcement of consistent security policies across all applications and users. And another 37% called out freeing IT staff to focus on strategic initiatives and projects by reducing the complexity of managing application delivery across hybrid IT, that's on-premise and cloud. Just below that, at 35%, was lowering the IT cost of delivering cloud-based and on-premises applications to users at branch offices and remote sites. Below that, we see enhancing customer engagement through better application and service delivery, maintaining SLAs associated with key applications by having control and visibility across all applications, both on-premises and in the cloud, and so on. All of these things are important, but the top three that got called out were IT efficiency, reducing risk, and freeing IT staff. In terms of must-have capabilities, and in this case we asked, which of the following do you consider essential must-have capabilities within the context of delivering applications in a multi-cloud environment? And then which capability is the most essential must-have capability within the context of delivering applications in a hybrid multi-cloud environment? And you can see that essential must-have capabilities were called out in the darker bar, and in the lighter bar you see the most essential must-have capability that was called out. Security and reliability were the top two must-have capabilities. They were the top two in terms of being called out as must-have capabilities more generally, and they were also the top two in terms of being called out as the most essential capability in the survey. So, right to the front, also important, of course, is enhanced visibility and simplify management and consistent policy and control, but the top two were security and improved reliability. We asked then about inhibitors to migrating apps to the cloud, and specifically the question was, which, if any, of the following factors have inhibited your organization's ability to migrate applications to the cloud? And you can see right at the top, by actually a fair margin, was security and compliance. Security and compliance was called out by 48% of respondents. Below that, at 42%, was cost. These were the top two inhibitors to migrating apps to the cloud, and then performance at nearly 40%, complexity just behind, and reliability just behind that.
Thank you, Brad. That was great, very insightful. I know I learned a lot listening to you, and I hope our audience did as well. And now I'm glad to turn the presentation over to George McGregor, who will talk about some solutions and some approaches to the problems that Brad brought up.
Thanks, Brad and Donna, and hi, everybody. So hybrid multi-cloud is the new normal, and enterprises are really seeking to reap the benefits of this revolution. But we've been hearing from our customers that there are challenges, and their current app delivery infrastructure is getting somewhat in the way. And that's why we partnered with IDC to look at this in detail. And as you can see, the vast majority of the respondents feel like they're hindered by the increased complexity of the network. And again, the majority are reassessing or are actively looking at their network to better facilitate hybrid cloud deployments. And also, the study reveals that there's a strong and a consistent desire for a holistic approach. So 79% of the respondents plan to address their app delivery challenges with a unified application delivery strategy. And our conclusion from all of this is that a new approach, a new holistic approach is required to truly harness the benefits of moving to the cloud. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we think that entails and talk about how the NextScale Portfolio addresses the needs highlighted by the survey. So on the right-hand side here, some of the results that Brad presented, that the current state is disrupted, disjointed, complex, piecemeal, and some of the highlights in terms of the requirements of the future state in terms of the application delivery network. So we've taken a look at these, and we've distilled these into the 3 points on the left-hand side, which are absolutely critical for the environment. So the first is improved app reliability from any cloud to branch and to any user. The second is a new approach to application security. And the third is to provide increased and improved application visibility across the clouds with a view to improving policy and control and simplifying the management task. So this is really the framework that we use to take a look at what's required. So I'm going to dig into that now. So the first thing is, let's take a look at how we improve application reliability. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about application delivery. And historically, we've seen a focus on availability with load balancing, with increasing performance, where we've put in place functionality to accelerate and optimize traffic and offload work from the application servers. And then extending along this axis, you see authenticated access, so making sure that apps can be accessed and users are authenticated. And then finally, increased levels of protection from cyber threats, so app-level threats with application firewall technology, prevention from DDoS attacks, etc. And this, of course, has led to the very rich functionality of the application delivery controller today. But in the new world of hybrid cloud deployments and SaaS apps, this is no longer sufficient. In fact, branch connectivity, so the final link, if you like, in terms of the way that applications are delivered to the users, can be unreliable. And this provides us with another dimension that we have to consider when we're looking at the application delivery network. Users of the applications can sit in branches, and what good is an application if they're inaccessible to the user, or if the customer experience is impacted? So it can't just stop at the edge of the data center. It needs to extend all the way to the branch offices. And the SD-WAN technology is the right approach to be able to address that. But there is another level of complexity. It's no longer just from the branch to the data center. Now applications are everywhere. They're on-premise, they're in public cloud, they're in SaaS clouds. Applications must be delivered not just from the data center of the branch, but from any cloud to the branch. And this means that we need to extend our model a little bit more and add this any cloud to the branch capability. And SD-WAN needs to be able to bond multiple WAN and broadband and internet links with smart path selection, and really to be able to enable the delivery of applications from any cloud to any branch and any user. So this gives us another angle in terms of the requirements that we have to provide. So we've looked at the issues of availability and how we can address that. So we need to consider security as well, however, and look a little bit at how we can do that. So there's a new approach to security, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about that. The current model, which is basically where you connect first and you authenticate later, is effectively broken, because with applications everywhere and users everywhere, the security perimeter needs to be everywhere, and that means users can access from the branch, from the mobile phones, from their home. But in the traditional approach, the model meant that applications were registered with a public DNS, and they were basically visible to anybody, and therefore the attack surface was exposed, and applications were really available to be attacked, probed, and very vulnerable to cyber attacks. So there's a new model evolving, which is actually authenticate the user first and then connect to the apps. So basically, you make sure that the applications are not visible to any users until they are authenticated. And this is a model which is a much better way of protecting applications. So there's the Cloud Security Alliance, which is defining standards which are being adopted around this model. And really, this effectively minimizes the attack surface and only exposes apps to users on a need-to-know basis, so it improves the security substantially. So this leads us to a model of security which is much more user-centric, in fact, and it reflects the fact that the applications are no longer within a data center, and all you need to do is to protect the perimeter of the data center. So we're looking at a more user-centric model, which really is the attack-centric model evolves, and we're looking more at individual users. And we can actually talk about a perimeter or a security environment set up for individual users and managed very, very dynamically. And this is a huge improvement in terms of security. So this needs to be factored into our application delivery network. All right, so that's really an enhancement to the application availability, performance, and security piece. It's a very critical one as we move to the cloud. The next piece here is visibility and improved analytics. So visibility provides a really huge opportunity to drive better customer experience because you can proactively manage app performance and mitigate security threats. But as applications span multiple clouds and there's new challenges for IT. How do you get control? How do you get visibility to actually perform the application performance and troubleshooting? And how do you actually even get the data when applications are spread across multiple clouds? So the good news is that you can do this, and the application delivery infrastructure actually offers a great vantage point and sits between your applications and users, and it sees all the traffic that traverses the network from the users to the applications. So if only you can harness that and analyze it and use it, then you can really use this data to understand the performance as perceived by users and to troubleshoot application performance issues when and where they arise. So this is a really critical other component. It's another axis, it's a third axis on our picture here to provide this end-to-end application delivery network. So we've got our third dimension, and really this is our framework for thinking about and addressing the issues that were presented in the survey. So if we put it all together, you can see that in this network picture, this gives us the view of the complexity that you see as you move the apps to the data center, to the public, private clouds, and deployed as SaaS applications and every point in between. It's very complicated, but if we want to summarize what we need to do down at the bottom here, you need to make sure you ensure the app reliability, and that's the SD-WAN functionality that we talked about. You need to make sure you have secure access and secure access to applications wherever they are, so single sign-on, authentication, and this evolving security model. You need to make sure that you support multi-cloud availability, and that means redundancy between clouds, in fact, so that you're not dependent on any particular cloud environment for ensuring the availability for applications. And then finally, you need this visibility to be able to ensure the customer experience is maintained at all times. So that brings me to the NextScale Portfolio, which is, we believe, the single solution in the market that addresses all the requirements for this new application delivery networking architecture. Whether it's from the data center, the branch, or from any cloud to branch, we can really maintain that customer experience. So if you look at this, the key thing here is the components of the solution. Think of them as network services, which can be deployed in physical form factor or in any cloud or as a service. These services, network services, can be chained all the way from the user to the applications in order to create the application delivery network functionality that's required. And then up above here, we have the management and analytics function, which can access and get visibility from every part of the infrastructure and provide you with the visibility and control that's required. So if I look from left to right in the network functions, you can see the SD-WAN, which ensures the connectivity to the branch and manages the traffic. And you can see the single sign-on functionality and for gateway, You can see security in terms of the web application firewall and DDoS protection. And then finally, you can have the full ADC functionality here on the right-hand side. So these are network services that are provided by the NextScale portfolio. Now, the last point here is, as this evolves towards the new user-centric security model, then our portfolio is evolving too, and that has to be a cloud-based portfolio because it has to be able to reach to all of the corners of the hybrid multi-cloud environment. So that brings us to the Citrix software-defined perimeter. So as I mentioned, there's the Cloud Security Alliance, which is defining the new model to minimize the attack surface and make sure that apps are only exposed to authorized users. But we looked at that and we're adding to it to create a Citrix SDP. And we're adding other layers of security. For example, protecting against compromised user accounts, as well as continuing to ensure enhanced protection from different kinds of attacks. We're also adding network services, so application discovery, DNS, GSLB to ensure the multi-cloud connectivity and availability, and then of course the SD-WAN functionality to ensure consistent, reliable delivery of applications and routing and path selection in a very dynamic way. So this is a very rich set of services, and it delivered as a set of cloud services to really make sure that we provide the application delivery network functionality that's required. So with that, hopefully I've introduced a little bit of the NextScale portfolio, and hopefully working with this, you can feel more confident to move your applications to a hybrid cloud and to SaaS deployments. And we look forward to working with you and exploring in more detail elements of the Citrix NetScaler portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, George. That was great. A lot of insights there. And now I'd like to open it up to our audience. And if you have questions, hopefully you've submitted them, and we will go through a few as time allows, both with George and with Brad. So George, this question is for you. How does Citrix NetScaler software-defined perimeter differ from the Cloud Security Alliance's definition or approach of the software-defined perimeter?
Okay, so thanks for the question. I did touch on that, but maybe I can give a little bit more detail. So the Cloud Security Alliance definition really focuses on a new model to make sure that applications are only exposed to authorized users. So the intent is to minimize the attack surface as the security perimeter shifts to the cloud. So that's a very critical thing to do, and we're obviously very supportive of that. But what we're doing is we're adding and enhancing that. So, for example, we're adding other layers of security. An example could be, that model works well, but supposing users' credentials are compromised, and that we're seeing that increasingly happening. Then we need other layers of security to protect against that. So that's where you can have user security functionality, which basically protects, looks at user behavior and actually protects you from compromised user accounts. And then another set of functions that we're adding are really to do with helping find the right applications and route the traffic to the right place based on the capacity. So that would be the global server load balancing functionality, for example. Select the best location, and then also do some, traffic management, which would provide high availability between clouds, and give another level of, availability to the environment. And then finally, the SD-WAN functionality to manage the routing and path selection. Really, all of this is it's security, but it's also ensuring that the customer experience is really enhanced. That's really what this is all about, is making sure that the customer experience is maintained for all of the applications that the users are accessing.
I think that's a great point, George. So what you're really saying is you're extending the definition beyond just the security component of it, and I do believe the CSA's definition really is focused primarily on security, and we're kind of saying that security is inextricably intertwined with user experience, and that you really need both of those in your application delivery networking.
Yep.
That's a great point. Okay, another question. This one's for Brad. So you asked about interest in a holistic app delivery. Can you define what you consider to be a holistic app delivery strategy?
Yes, thank you for the question. Absolutely. In fact, we mentioned it on an earlier slide in terms of what that was. And the holistic application delivery strategy extends from the on-premise data center or data centers out to the public cloud or public clouds and across the wide area network to enterprise or organizations, branch offices, and remote sites. So it really has to encompass all of that. I mean, applications today are not only in the enterprise data center on premises, but they are out in the public cloud, SaaS applications. Adoption of IaaS services, of course, is growing rapidly out there in the marketplace. And obviously, you need to support what goes on out at your branch offices and remote sites, which is often for a great number of customers, and certainly across some key verticals where business is being transacted and where they meet the customer, so to speak. All of this has to be taken into account, and it's certainly in a cloud context. It can be more complicated. It can be more challenging, but I think customers, based on our research and certainly based on the survey results, are now thinking about this more holistic application delivery strategy.
Here's another question. I think this one's for George as well. How difficult is it for my organization to adjust to this more holistic approach to application delivery across the network? Is it easy to implement, and what new skills are required?
So that's a great question. So there are a couple of things to that, and I guess the first is, we recognize, or we've been thinking a little bit about that when I talked a little bit about the management and analytics solution that we have to provide visibility and control across this emerging hybrid cloud environment. And one of the things there is to try to provide a layer of abstraction which tries to not hide the complexity, but at least make it more manageable. So, for example, we have templates that can be used to define the infrastructure, and then we have this idea of kind of application-centric functionality that goes through the life cycle, so that you can really focus in on just the right information. So the point there is, not everyone needs to be an expert on all of the details of the infrastructure anymore. If you have the right set of tools that are providing a layer of abstraction and making sure that there's some help for the operators or for the administrators. So that's one thing. Part of the design is definitely to try to do that, to make it easier to administer and manage these kind of systems. And then I think the other key thing is, you don't need to do all of this in one time. So there are obviously going to be some new skills required, but you can pick to roll out, for example, the SD-WAN functionality first, and then maybe extend to other functionality, and that way you can somewhat manage and mitigate the skills required.
All right, we have another question here. George, I'll send this one to you. In the past, other vendors have offered both ADCs and WAN optimization together to address application delivery. What makes the combination of ADC, SD-WAN, SSO more compelling now?
Okay, so in the past there was certainly WAN optimization products which were very focused on the optimizing the traffic between the branch and the data center, but that was a very focused on that use case. And now what we're talking about is this, having to embrace applications that are in the internet, that are SaaS applications. And it adds a level of complexity in terms of managing the traffic to the end user, and obviously tying that to the application delivery functionality is, it's another kind of level of complexity, if you like, and in terms of being able to do that. So I would say, that there's a number of things that are different in terms of the integrated portfolio here. And it's all driven by, the need to embrace, extend beyond the data center to the, this world of multiple hybrid cloud delivery of applications.
All right, and then we do have time for one last question. I think, Brad, this is perfect for you, and you can kind of leave us on this note. What did you see that was different in this survey than you observed in past surveys?
I think, it was a recognition. I mean, first of all, these organizations were cloud forward, but there was a tremendous recognition that the network, from the majority of respondents, that the network infrastructure for application delivery wasn't doing what respondents needed to do. That came out loud and clear. I think the fact that they're either reassessing or beginning to make changes to their application delivery infrastructure is really significant. And certainly it indicates that there's a challenge, there's a problem that customers are facing. And, I think it's incumbent on the vendor community to respond to that challenge and give them solutions that will allow them to overcome that problem.
All right. Well, thank you again, George and Brad. I think that's all we have time for today as far as questions. So that brings us to the end of today's session. A quick reminder, you can check out and register for upcoming webinars and events by going to citrix.com/events. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great day.